the only way to start your day.
Many happening conversations around the country, the region, and indeed the world. We're getting into another one this hour, and thank you for joining us. We're just reconnecting our audiences. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Our audience on KTN is here, and those of you who are listening around the nation, the region, and indeed the world, welcome as we continue in on this conversation. All right, we're getting into another one, like I said, this hour, and even as we do, then for us to then welcome our guest who's already seated in the hot seat this morning, because we're going to be looking at one that folks have been asking many questions about, and wondering what really is going on. The Reverend Dr. Elias Otieno Agola is the chairman of the National Council of Churches of Kenya, and he's here in the hot seat this morning. Reverend Agola, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Very good. I am only receiving a threat that this seat is hot.
A threat? Well, I don't know about a threat, but it could be a promise.
To be here and glad to have been invited. We as NCCK, we are proud of you inviting us to come and talk to the issues that affect our nation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for honoring the invitation. Of course, good for us to be able to open up this conversation and see what lies beneath.
Thank you.
As we get into that, Dennis will welcome you with today's proverb for your interpretation.
Yeah, our proverb today comes from Liberia, a country that is rich in natural resources like the iron ore, gold, diamonds, rubber, and timber. Now, the country is also home to West Africa's largest remaining rainforest, containing unique wildlife like pygmy hippos and chimpanzees. And from this great nation, that is one of the it is the first country to have been declared independent in the continent, is this proverb: you cannot climb two trees at the same time. You cannot climb two trees at the same time. How would you interpret that?
Wow. You cannot climb two trees at the same time. Does it need any other interpretation apart from just stating what it is? That you have to be focused. You have to be focused. You have to know where you want to be. And things may look alike, but they are not the same. So choose which one and strategize to run with it to the end. Thank you.
Indeed. Well, even as we think about that, there are very many pots that are boiling in the country at the moment. And there are very many political statements that are being made, and there are political positions that are being taken. If we look at the last big, and I think there were 4, but if we look at the last, 3 weekends, and the establishment of idea, thought, alignments that were made, or messages that were sent across, these came from churches. Politicians never really went away from the pulpit to then be able to send a message across, whether it is the president, whether it is those who might be in a position of opposition. I mean, on Sunday last week, it was Starehe and a church in Moya. The weekend before that, it was the AIC church, and before that, it was in another church service whereby certain things are being said, and that seems to form the pace of conversations. Then going into the week, and then things are it's answered, and then there are barbs that are thrown back and forth. But it seems as though the church has been giving a ready platform for this to happen. And because of that, we would ask then, has the church then come back to the place where it has decided that it will be a platform for political conversations to start? Are we back there?
Good question. Thank you very much, and good morning, our listeners and viewers. It is a pleasure to have you again today from NCCK. NCCK is a communion of churches that come together to discuss faith and discuss how we can help in transforming our country, Kenya. The reason why we are also still a force in this country. A good question that you are raising is that you see political leaders coming into church and allowed by religious leaders to worship like any other and to be recognized in places of worship, which is not the wrong thing. But the wrong thing comes when somebody comes in and begins to use that platform to perpetuate their interests and their goals in life in their sector, that is in politics. The church cannot stop people from coming to church.
Okay.
The church can also not assume the leaders when they come to church. But the church shall remain the church when we say what we mean and we mean what we say. And when we restrain these politicians from using the platforms in the church to play dirty politics. But if it is something that is building the nation, something that is helping us to pull together as leaders, that we can allow.
What would that be?
But
what would be that thing that is building the nation, that politicians would speak from the pulpit, that would then be allowed?
But anything that just perpetuates their political ambitions, and also anything that attacks another political leader or any other leader, that we cannot allow.
But it's being allowed, Reverend Agola.
Your question is that you see that it is being allowed.
Yes.
From the position of NCCK, we are not against any politician. We are also not against any alliance. We are also not in support of any politician. We are also not in support of any alliance. But we are here to say that Kenya needs all of us, and Kenya needs all of us to act within the rules that respect the places of worship and respect the human beings that we serve in this country. We cannot be part of any utterances that are made, but we regret sometimes to say that we have other religious leaders who allow politics to be played, and especially dirty politics for that matter, to be played in the church.
Reverend, if we could just begin from the proverb that we started with, you cannot climb two trees at the same time.
Yes.
And here is the church, the religious bodies whose has been seen rather as the moral compass of the society, where Kenyans run to for refuge, where Kenyans listen to matters of the faith for spiritual uplifting. But then again, you look at what politicians do at the pulpit, and one would assume, or one would conclude, that the church has allowed that to happen, that it has become the norm. It has become the norm to a point where the church right now does not know how to get out of a situation that they created themselves. The pulpit has been consecrated, has been destroyed so much that Kenyans today say, Kenyans today are telling the church, we would not come to church if you allow politicians to be on the pulpit. Does that worry you?
Yes, it worries. But it's important to be a student of history sometimes. That when in the Kenyan history, you may recall, if you can, that there comes a time when there is a bit of balkanization of religious institutions so that they serve a particular clique of people. This is what we are speaking against. This is what we are not saying should be, we are saying should be allowed in the churches. Although it is true that there are some churches that allow these politicians to come and play their politics, dirty politics for that matter, not on the pulpit. I've never seen a politician standing on the pulpit, although you keep using the word pulpit as though the pulpit means
But
the
you cannot
same
separate
place.
the church from the pulpit.
I
It's
know,
very much the same
I know, but let's use the right terminologies. When we say pulpit, it is where the word is preached from. That's what the pulpit means. But I think we should use the word allowing these people to use the platform in the church
To politic?
to do politics. Maybe some people do that, and maybe we have seen that. But we are not saying that all the churches are doing that. So if we lump all the churches and say all the churches are allowing that, that's not a right statement. The right statement is that some churches allow that.
Or when political messages are being sent
Yes.
on Sunday, they are coming from church. They are coming from church. These messages are being spoken while members of a clergy of a particular church are sitting and allowing 10, 15 minutes of this to take place, and sitting and allowing this to happen. And in some cases, applauding and nodding in agreement. Now, we're not necessarily saying this is a bad thing, but it's looking for the positioning that the church has taken in all of this. Is that to say that if somebody is sending a message from a particular church, that church has endorsed the message, and so the followers or the congregants also then endorse the message? It is looking for the position that a church has taken, that the messages that come out that then form the basis for answers, for right of reply, come from a platform that they've been allowed in church, not anywhere else.
Yeah.
We've been told before that it's been said. We know, for example, that ACK has told its members very clearly that we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. If you want to address people, address them outside. When you come to church, you're coming to worship. We're not going to give you an opportunity to even greet people. You've come to serve, worship God and have communion with the congregants. If you decide to finish and you want to greet people, you do it outside. You see, that's a position. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So anything, and other churches have actually also said the same thing. If you want to address people for whatever reason, do it outside, because they realize the power that the platform gives.
Yeah. I hear you, and I hear you very clearly. You are right in what you are saying, but also listen to what I'm also saying.
Mm-hmm.
I started by saying that NCCK, which is the house where a church like ACK is, or that is Anglican, has a stand. And our stand is that when a politician comes to the church, they are not supposed to be given that opportunity in church to address the congregants. Because we know that politicians here have their own way of attacking other politicians, or even sending their messages. And some messages may not be agreeable to some of our congregants, because most of our churches draw people from all over Kenya. So when you use that platform to address your people and to attack the others, then it will therefore mean you are attacking the same congregation that we are in. In NCCK, we are very categorical. And we have said that we are not in support of any politician. We are not in support of any alliance. We are also not opposing any politician, and we are not opposing any alliance. So that's the reason why we are saying, because we are at that platform where we are saying we are not in support and we are not opposing, it therefore means that when you come to church, be a worshipper like any other. But we are aware that there are some churches. So don't say the church is doing it because some churches are doing it. Of course, we know a church is a church. But then when others do it, it doesn't therefore mean that all are doing it. We are not against any politician. We allow them to come, worship, and address people outside, because outside is for everybody. But the sanctity of the sanctuary is what we are protecting. And saying that, yes, others have allowed the sanctity of the sanctuary to be reduced, but we still call ourselves to order and say that even though that has happened, then we still need to forge ahead and look forward and say, what can we do? Because the space we are getting into this December, next year, and the time before the elections will be a hot space.
Yes.
And that hot space cannot be the space that is supported by the church in the church.
Yet, Reverend, if you look at Kenyans today, say, and the current dispensation, Kenyans say it is the church played an integral role in putting the current government in office. We cannot run away from that. And with that, then, any ill, if any, that would come from the current administration would always be associated with the body that is accused or that is said to be part and parcel of putting it in office. So then how does the clergy run away from that, knowing very well that Kenyans are saying, you are part and parcel of the government?
There's nobody in this Republic of Kenya or any government or any country that is not part of parcel with the government, because government is for the people, by the people, and elected by the people. There is no day a church is given a voter's card. Nobody has ever been registered.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, enriched with 95% pure vitamin C and pearl extract for visibly radiant and even-toned skin in just 2 weeks. Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow. Skin is for celebrating my shade of beautiful. Nivea is for skin.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In putting one person's problem or mistake to appear to be the others is not the right thing. In also putting one person's success and saying that this is the success of everybody, again, sometimes it may not be the right thing.
Does it worry you?
We have been on record, even here, faulting the government for so many things, including now. We are saying we cannot condone the balkanization of churches. We cannot condone the issues around the hate speech. We cannot condone any support or a move that is likely to suggest that corrupt individuals are shielded. We cannot condone the bad governance and this over-taxation and giving of excessive, levies, and also this borrowing. We cannot condone that. When we are saying that as a church, does it mean we are supporting what is happening? It means that, yes, we respect the government that is there, but we also have a duty and a right to be the conscience of the society. And where the voices of the voiceless cannot be heard, we are here to do that. And if somebody sees us as part of the government, then they should also see that we are here to do what? To correct that same government. We are not against any politician. We are against the policies that are pulling the common mwananchi down.
Is there anything wrong with the church being part of government or working with government, in your opinion?
Nothing wrong, because as I said, every person in a particular jurisdiction of a country is part of the government, because the government is for the people. The government is to serve the people. And the church leaders, for that matter, are also leaders in this country, and I've said it over and over again. And if we are leaders, then if something is going wrong, we have to point it. If something is going right, we also have to point it, and that has been the stand of NCCK. There is nothing wrong for us to support something that is right. There is everything wrong when we support the wrong thing. Yes.
For the longest time, I mean, when we look at history, Reverend, the church at some point played a key role in the fight, for example, for multi-party democracy, social justice. We remember people like Reverend Timothy Njoya and so many others who were at the center fighting for justice and human rights. And by extension, then the church was heavily involved. And there was no problem back then. As a matter of fact, the political class at that point were against the church meddling into what you call affairs of the government or politics. Then fast forward to where we are today. There's a new generation that then doesn't have that institutional memory. It's just looking at the current issues that the country is facing, and especially economic challenges. And they keep seeing a lot of donations going to churches. And when I refer to churches, this could fall under any class of denominations. But essentially, it's just the representation of church. Now, when you have that picture, do you sit back then question, because there are seasons and times. There was a time when the church then had that very, what you'd call that prophetic voice that would then shape the direction of the country. Does it still have it today? Is there relevance today?
Thank you for reminding me of that history, which I already know. And thank you for accepting that the church has been involved ever since. And thank you for acknowledging that the media has also been airing the voice of the church when the church is talking and putting it as a distinctive voice that can help in transforming the nation. Yes, the likes of Njoya, the likes of the late Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, the likes of Bishop Okulu, the likes of Bishop Muge, the likes of Bishop Gitari, the equivalent of the same are still there. Are they still talking? Yes, they're still talking. And when they talk, is it aired? Yes, at some points we hear that. But when you go to a church, for example, and a politician is also there, and a sermon is preached, does this sermon have some bite for the country? Is there something that the church has said, either in a boardroom, from the pulpit, or in a statement that can run throughout for a week? Or is it overshadowed by political rhetorics, name-calling, hate speech? What is this that is termed as news? And is good news the news? Because the church stands for good news. The church stands for being the voice of the voiceless. The church, we always make our statements very clear. And we speak when we are supposed to, and when we feel that here, the voice of the church is supposed to be there. Because the voice of the church is the voice of the minority, is the majority that are suppressed. And this voice has always been there. So claiming that the church has not been talking may not be the correct position. The correct position is that we still continue with the fire that was left by these, our forefathers, and those who have led the church for many years. And that voice is still there. Anytime we talk on behalf of the people of Kenya, and we talk for good governance in this country.
So the voice can still be there. My question was, is it still relevant?
It is still there, and I believe and I know it is still relevant. Only that when you talk, how many people hear you? And who else amplifies that voice? Because those voices you talk about, they were being amplified. Some voices were in Nakuru. Ndingi Mwana Nzeki was in Nakuru. Muge was in Eldoret. Others were in Nairobi. Others were in Kirinyaga. But somebody somewhere, like where we are today, amplified that voice. So we are looking for that opportunity, that time in history when the focus will be on what the church is saying and what is not being politicized.
Let me paint this picture before Seto jumps in quickly, just as a follow-up to what you just said.
Yeah.
So with the example that I gave, with what the church has done in the past and what the figures that you mentioned, we never, and I don't recall, growing up watching television, seeing politicians abusing insults at each other from the pulpit. I never saw a situation where there'll be a direct conflict. The first speaker comes in and says something, the second speaker comes in, and this is all happening in church. It's almost like it's verbal, the verbally insulting each other and fighting each other. And the clergy is sitting behind, and the congregation is clapping. We never used to see that. But today, we see a lot of that happening. And all this is captured by the media, like you said. And so the voices, the good message is drowned by the drama that is being entertained. And we keep saying these things never used to happen in the past. The political, the politics of this country have changed. We never used to see that kind of thing in the 80s and in the 90s, for example. But today, we're seeing a lot and more of it. And it almost feels like the clergy entertains it. They sit, people hurl insults at each other, and then people move on with their lives. And that's what I'm saying. Is it still relevant? Is the church then giving a voice or a platform to these people to keep spewing these things? And therefore, the generation that is looking at the church and thinking, okay, there's no moral authority here. The church can't give us direction. The church is aligning too closely to politicians, especially toxic politicians, giving them platforms. How do you then respond to that perception?
Well, perceptions are created, and perceptions are also part of the truth somewhere. I cannot deny that these politicians have not come to churches. That I cannot deny. I cannot say that we have approved them to abuse one another, to hurl hate speech. I cannot deny that these people have spoken in church. The truth of the matter is that that has happened. But comparing it to the ages that you are talking about may not be a reality. Why? Because you know what used to happen. If you are not there, maybe you read it and you know how technology has moved as well. The truth of the matter is that what was being aired at that time was not the real thing that is happening at the real time. And therefore, them being there, as I have said, we have seen them do that. We have seen some churches entertain them. But that does not mean we have not talked to them and told them that this is not right. Them here means our colleague religious leaders. And I still say that, we have said it longer and over again, that we do not allow politicians to come and play their politics in the church. That is still the stand of NCCK, that anybody allowing these people to do that is doing a wrong thing, because we have already agreed in our own meetings and said that politicians are not supposed to come and play politics in the church. And whenever that has happened, we can say that is bad news and we don't like it, but it has happened, and we are saying that we are here to regulate that so that it doesn't continue. And we warn our churches that, what would happen if, for example, there is fracas in the church after some politician has confronted another, and maybe that old lady in the church is harmed, and maybe that older person is harmed. What if there is even killing in the church? What will happen? So we still do not allow politicians to come and play their politics in the church. Now, for example, when there is a ceremony like there was in Ziwani the other day, I think that was a celebration of some kind, and some politicians were invited. It is wrong for politicians to use that space to abuse the sanctity of the sanctuary. And we always tell politicians that, including those who are top in the country, whenever you go, please know that that is a place of worship. It is not a platform that you have mobilized for your political rhetorics.
Yet, Reverend, what you talk about and things you speak against continue to happen. And like our listeners are saying, there needs to be clear separation of church and state, where one would say that is no longer the case. But that notwithstanding, is the church worried that Kenyans do not trust them to offer leadership and to speak truth to power, like it used to happen back in the days? You talk of Alexander Muge, you talk of Bishop Okulu, Timothy Njoya, who spoke truth to power. Today, one would say that's not the case. Is the church concerned that Kenyans don't trust them?
Well, church and politics, or church and governance is one and the same, because the church is also involved in governance. And the church is involved in governance, not us, the ones that are the duty bearers, but the right holders, and holding also the hands of the right holders, and helping the right holders to be heard, to have a voice. At the same time, we still remember the likes of Dr. Njoya is still alive. We still remember some of them who have rested with the Lord and what they did. And we still can say that the church still holds a position. And the church is still respected. The truth of the matter is that, yes, there are some that have gone astray, but it is wrong to say that the entire church has gone astray.
And that's the thing about
we still remain a voice that is trusted. If we are not trusted, then we would not be having the numbers that come to church every Sunday. If we are not trusted, then we will not be having the numbers that listen or follow us on social media and the digital platform every Sunday, every day. We are still trusted. But if there is something that we need to correct, that's why I'm saying we are here to correct it.
Okay,
we are here to regulate them.
And that's why we want to bring some of these issues out, because, and that's the thing about hope, Reverend,
yes,
that it is kept alive and people keep coming with the hope. And that's the thing that fuels people to come. So even while we can look at politics, we must also look at other areas where, unfortunately, it does seem as though things are going really crazily wrong, and it's still met by some silence. The person who came up with the proverb that says it's one bad apple that spoils the bunch, one apple. And it's that one apple that affects everything else. Not just affecting apples, but it also affects the perception that if I have a bunch of apples and I see that one is bad, I am going to imagine that everything else in that basket has been touched. That's just the way our human perspective works. And so that's why there needs to be a robust speaking out constantly about the position. And that's why I asked the question about, is it wrong? It's not wrong. But the position has to be made very clear. And so if we segue just a little bit, I want to ask about the positions of certain things that we are seeing void of politics in the church. Shakahola is one of them. We now have a second aspect of Shakahola coming out, where people come in believing the words that somebody has spoken, and it has ended, unfortunately, in death, in starvation, of children dying. That's just one. There are incidences of churches in Kenya today where people who are the shepherds of church are defiling their congregants, grown men and women, not just children, defiling grown men and women in church. It's out in the open. It has happened. On Sunday, there was a Nyama Choma festival in a platform in church where people are supposed to come to, I guess, feed their souls. I guess in this case, it was something a little bit more
feeding
than that.
Flesh.
Feeding the flesh, literally. So you see, when you see these things happen rapidly, this man to my right did an entire investigative series about a man who was supposedly preaching to the flock, but taking advantage of women in church, raping, assaulting. This is all coming from church. So where is the voice to speak out about those things and speak out very clearly about them?
Good. It is unfortunate that such is mentioned among the brethren, among the church leaders, among the churches, and in our country. If a basket of apples, with one apple that is rotten, if the other apples that are not rotten would be given an opportunity, they would say, yes, one is rotten, but it doesn't mean all of us are rotten. One has gone astray, but it doesn't mean all of us have gone astray. It is true and very unfortunate that we have instances like Shakahola, and some of us in NCCK were also involved in the investigations, and we have come up with a bill to regulate such issues. And even today, we are making some presentations, because as at 22nd, the public participation will be closed. And we are saying, yes, there is need for some regulations and there is need for enforcement. Because the truth of the matter is, how did all those people die and there is a village elder there? How would they die and there is a chief, there is also an assistant chief? As we blame this wrong thing done by some churches, we should also speak to who was supposed to protect these people. Because there is a clear law. There are also governance structures on the Ngaos, the national government administrative officers. What is their role? And if somebody is going to dig a grave, and not one and not two, does it mean that it went without anybody seeing these people going into the forest? But then, we are not blaming one another here. We are only stating facts that, yes, something unfortunate has happened, but there is a way out. And the way out is that we call on ourselves to get back to order and know that the gospel is not just for hawking, and the gospel is not just, it is not a platform where people can come and molest others. We regret that because it has happened to people who purportedly say they are religious leaders. But among the NCCK, for example, and the evangelicals, we and the Catholics, we say no to such things.
Not loudly, though.
Pardon?
Not loudly.
We have said it so loudly. We have spoken and condemned such acts, and we are on record having done that. Even if you go to our websites, you are able to see that we have always made statements against such rogue appearances in the churches. Yes.
I want to ask a question that may sound a bit controversial, but
go ahead.
It's conversations that people normally have.
Sure.
Because we're defining church, and like you keep saying, you can't take one rotten apple that purports to represent church and then
not listen to the other.
Yes.
Other apples that are not rotten.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a quick one.
Yeah.
So NCCK, who forms part of NCCK?
Okay. Continue with your question.
The question I'm driving at here is, when our current president was going around the country doing campaigns and was visiting churches and with other political leaders, there was a sense from a section, I don't know whether we call them evangelicals or Pentecostals at that point. The feeling was, it's now our time, because what we've had in the past previous presidents, you had a Catholic president, for example. Let's just speak about these things openly. So we had Uhuru Kenyatta was Catholic. We had Mwai Kibaki was Catholic. Former late President Daniel Moi was AIC, right? And so now we have President Ruto who's coming in. He's none of those. So he is more of an evangelical charismatic. So, and with that, there was a very big push from churches under that umbrella then, who are feeling, okay, we have our president now who will represent us. At least we have a president and the first lady who is part of us. And so the dividing line is, so you have Pentecostals or evangelicals, you have Catholics on this side, you have all these different clusters. And so when the church then is speaking, it should be very clear who exactly then is speaking. Because when we see one part of, let's say if it's the Anglicans speaking, there is a way they're speaking. If it is the Catholics that are speaking, there's a direction they're going with this. But when you now move to this other side, there is also their own language. Is this, I don't know what they call them, denominations or these clusters, also a hindrance to have one message that is coming from church? Because here in Kenya, we can't honestly say the church has spoken, because this church is split into so many different denominations, so to speak. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, the church in Kenya is coordinated by what is referred to as religious coordinating bodies, RCBs. And not only the church, the religion, because when you go to the Muslims, you have the SUPKEM, and you have the NAMLEF, and then you have the Shia Muslims, 3. When you come to the church, we have the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, we have Organization of African Instituted Churches, we have EAK, the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, then we have the SDA, and then we have the NCCK. NCCK is the oldest and the biggest. We command close to 20 million Kenyans who are denominations that are affiliated to NCCK. That's a big number. And the oldest and the most vocal in terms of correcting good governance and ensuring that there is order in worship and there is also order in fellowship. When we talk for Kenyans, because we talk for these close to 20 million Kenyans. When we also talk, sometimes we talk together with the KCCB, the Kenya Catholic Conference of Bishops. We also talk together with these evangelicals. But it is also good to note that there are people who are neither in these religious coordinating bodies. These are the people that largely sometimes they are being used. They are the people who are largely sometimes are being used to offer these platforms you see.
To politicians.
If you go to EAK, they have a clear guide on how to handle politicians when they come. If you go to NCCK, we also have the same. In Catholic, we also have the same, including offering us, giving offerings that are amplified. We have statements on that, and we have regulations on that. When you say that some people said that it is now our time and it is our person, it's neither here nor there, because you have used the names of the presidents. Let me give you the name that you did not use. The current president. Which church does he claim to be a member of?
Is it
AIC? That is his church. So when you say AIC has not had their time, because you're saying the time of President Moi, it was AIC saying
it was clear who he was identifying himself with.
Yes.
And you can then say, you know how you say you have your home church.
My home church is PCA.
In the village, for example.
My home church is PCA.
So our current president, but you might argue that's his home church. But he identifies them more.
So to answer your question,
yes,
these religious coordinating bodies, like NCCK that I speak for, and KCCB that I know, and even EAK that I also know, and these are the major religious coordinating bodies from the Christian side. we do not support. We do not support. If there is anybody who says we support this president, that is not the voice of the religious coordinating body and should not be confused for that. And an individual voice can say whatever they want, but it is not something that is from the NCCK. When I use my personal views here, I will tell you this is my personal view. But the views that I hold here are the views of NCCK. Yes.
So, Reverend, you've mentioned about a bill that you've taken to the National Assembly. There is also the mention of these other churches that do not belong to these RCBs, which brings us to the question of regulation. Is there a need for all the churches in the country to belong to an RCB that will then inform a position of the church, if one would say?
There is a need. I strongly support that, because when you belong to a particular RCB, then this RCB is able to regulate you internally, and where there is an external regulator, then the regulator will begin with the RCB where you belong and ask, why do you allow your members to go this rogue? So as NCCK, we support that bill. And we have also made our contributions to that bill. So it is something that we support, because when somebody goes rogue, it will still come to us, because before I came here and before I mentioned OAIC, for example, did you know about it? The Organization of African Instituted Churches. Maybe you did not know about it, but did you know about NCCK? So when we are supporting that regulation, we are saying that we are supporting it because we know what regulation can bring on table and what regulation can bring on the need for sanity in that sector, in the religious sector. And therefore, as NCCK, we stand to say that good governance is also synonymous to our name.
Okay, so what's the position? I mean, just kind of like going around, and I think what people are hoping for is a strong, robust, repetitive voice when it comes to some of these things. Otherwise, it looks as though anything that comes is more or less endorsed. And where we have heard the voices, because where we have heard the voices, then folks are looking for a situation where it is regular and not just one statement ever so often. And so having said that, going into the season which we are in, which is heavily political, the platforms will be sought after. There is no question that those platforms will be sought after, because like we said, the power that the platform wields is untold. And so folks will look for it to use it. So what is the position going into, or right in the throes of this current highly charged political season that we are in and will be for the next 1.5 years? What is the position?
Our position is that let us use the governance systems and structures that are there to hear our opinions and to participate for good governance in this country. We have the opportunity, and as a church, we are offering our religious institutions, our spaces, churches, halls, and we even are ready to volunteer to do civic education so that people know their rights and people know how to participate in this governance. We are also calling upon our people to take the votes, because whatever change you want, there is a system of doing it, and the system is not going on streets. It is to go and register as a voter and be ready to vote, and then you can now make your choice that time. With regards to your question on the issue of offering our places of worship to these politicians, we still say no to this. And we say, come to church, but come as a worshiper. Don't come there to make your political statements or change that into a political platform. If you want to meet people, the law allows you to go and ask for permission to have a campaign rally outside there. When you come to church and you want to address people outside there, you can do that, but not in a dedicated sanctuary. Although the entire compound is dedicated, we would allow you to address people outside there so that you are not holding people captive in church, those who didn't want to hear you. So when you are out there, those who have chosen to come to your that space, they have chosen to come there. Those who want to listen to you, they have decided to listen to you. But not coming to church, inside the church, and making those political statements, that we are against. And we are saying that it is time for us to note again and again, we say, as NCCK and our churches, we are not endorsing anybody. Number two, we are not against anybody. What we are doing is to ensure that we continue to talk about issues that are relevant to us, and say corruption is not just an economic issue. Corruption is a moral crisis. And the issues of health, we are saying that some of these systems should be fixed early enough, even to avoid deaths and to avoid delayed health services. Yeah.
Reverend Dr. Elias Otieno Agola is the chairman of the National Council of Churches of Kenya and has been our guest this hour. Looking forward to the seasons as we get into them. Thank you for joining us this morning. And as we continue with more conversations, good morning at 8:01.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.